All right, let's dive right in. I have to give credit where credit's due. This kind of mini community idea is definitely Akeem's backing, and we've seen, and I've heard a lot of people, and I think we're getting to the stage now where Lattice is big enough where it is getting a little hard to navigate in some ways, and finding that smaller crew to go deep on a certain subject, question, idea, company strikes me as super interesting, right? We have the power of kind of a scaled network, or it's all relative, but 300, 350 people of the scaled network overall, but also kind of the ability to go deep on something you're really passionate about with a handful of other people who really care about that. That's the notion. That's the thing I think we're excited about. We're going to experiment a ton. We're going to learn. We're going to fail. We're going to try a whole bunch of different things, but that's the intention. And kind of with that, I'll turn it over to Akeem and see where we go with it.
Perfect. Thank you, Blas. Yes, I'm also excited about Circles because it promises exactly that, right? To connect you with fellow Lattice partners in a smaller group, to dive deep and to learn about a subject. I think that's also part why we're all here, and to create something meaningful in the process as well. So it's a little, the setup that I'll be now talking about facilitates to actually work together, create something, and experiment. So I'm going through the steps. I'm not sharing my screen, but whenever something's unclear, raise your hand and ask a question. And at the end, I will also put something on to recap. So first of all, Circles connect in small groups. So this is meant to, we're meant to have a host of each circle, and this is really just the role to keep the things together. You don't have to be knowledgeable in the topic. You have to be curious. You have to want a topic to be in existence, a circle to be in existence. But then it's really just being the leader in the driving seat a little bit and keeping it together. It doesn't have to involve a lot of work. As you can see with everything in Circles, it's flexible, right? It adjusts to whatever time you have and whatever scope you intend for it. So we have the host and we have members. So once a topic is out there as proposed, then people can join and indicate their interest. And we already see in the WhatsApp group that once a topic is mentioned, for example, we have this one where AI tools, right, for financial research, that if a topic is mentioned, then people can huddle together and say like, yeah, I'm interested in that, and join. And the main idea here is that then in these smaller circles, you get to know each other much better, right? Like it's a good opportunity to talk about in a closer group, independent from the, let's say, big Lattice community. The tools that are used are very flexible, right? It can be another WhatsApp group. It can be a weekly Zoom call. It could be a Discord. It can be in the Mighty forum, or it can be another forum system. There are plenty of options, and we will facilitate this, right? Blas and I want to help. And so the main ignition is if somebody says, okay, I want to host a circle, and then the rest is already a collaborative effort. And the goal is to have then the conversations going, a place to accumulate knowledge on the topic, and to form these relationships, and also to do something together. I get to this in a bit. With Circles, we think less is more. It's not so much like I follow, 5 to 10 to 50 to 100 circles, and the more the merrier. It's rather the opposite. It's the opposite, right? Like hosting a circle could already be enough. Joining one circle could already be enough. And yes, of course, you can also try out a little bit more, but it totally depends on you. But we would start from that end and suggest to start from that end and not to kind of overcommit. Now, diving into a subject, what does it mean, right? We already asked for some proposals, and they already vary, which is great. We have, for example, the request for some kind of mastermind group, right? Where the main effort is really to connect to a smaller subset of Lattice partners. We have topics suggested, like I mentioned, the AI one, investing, health, like all the very different topics. I will show you a list a little bit further down the road here in the call. It would be good to be specific, right? Like this I think adds quality to a circle. If it's very specific, then the teamwork is much easier, and also to create something and work on something. If it's only, let's say, investing, that's a little bit broad and probably is not as attractive. However, I mean, we'll see, right? Like, but again, this is the hypothesis. Let me show you examples of what was proposed. So I hope the size is okay. I'm going through this. You see here, evolve lattice is an idea of ours to just evolve the community, right? People that want to be active in the community and bring the community forward. A builder's mastermind, right? Ben suggested to have a small mastermind group of people who build something in the private equity or startup space and so on. Parenting from Danielle, right? Parenting with kids under 10. Here you see an example of making it more specific, right? Which is great. Investments, right? Volkert, we even talked about more specific things in our call where we exchanged a little bit. Leverage AI for financial research. I think that's a top-notch topic. And I already can see like a little database coming out of that. I'll talk about the outcomes in a bit. And serendipity WhatsApp group means, again, like connecting to a few Lattice partners for a period of time. I don't go through all of these, maybe quickly, just so that it rings about gamification or games, how to create quality human capital, tech, game industry, study of consciousness, societal shift in mindset and consciousness. So, but this is more or less a trigger list, right? When there could be anything, could be a circle. Stop sharing the screen here. So ship something. I already mentioned it, right? So there are two things. We want to propose to work on something in these circles, not only to have conversations, but also to work towards a goal. And because this is, in my experience, also with other communities, the thing that creates a good team, that forms bonds also, if you're working towards a common goal. And this could be anything. It doesn't have to be big, right? It could be a shared experience. We have in mind to run this in 6-week circles. Maybe I say this now, because 6-week cycles. What I mean by 6-week cycles, it limits, it puts a little limit on, you can see it like a sprint. It's one chunk of time where the circles commit to create something. It doesn't have to be clear in the beginning what it is, but after these 6 weeks, these circles report back, right, with something to the community, something, an outcome. It could be a shared doc with some notes. It could be one article. It could be a call like this, right, where the community is invited to listen in and hear about the result. It can be just a result that you can post on social media or something. So the idea is to work on something together that forms. Again,
let me just jump in really quickly.
Yes.
The vision with this ship something, I think it's twofold, at least in my mind, and we'll see how it plays out. But one, I at least find it more compelling or engaging when there is some sort of product at the end, right? And like Akeem's mentioned, it could be a call, it could be a presentation, it could be whatever. But having that as a little bit of like an accountability thing towards the end of it, I think will be really cool. And what gets me excited about that is, imagine this thing in 10 years, right? Hundreds of different outputs from this curated group of people on every topic you can imagine. And the people who are part of that, right? Like, that excites me. I will see if that kind of resonates with the rest of the group and everything. But that, I guess, like this notion of quality over quantity. And yeah, you can Google anything, you can ChatGPT anything. But hey, here are 5 people that went really deep on quality. And there's a 100-page PDF on it. Like, shit, okay, like these are the people that are like my tribe, right? Like that's what I can imagine this thing becoming over time. And then the second thing, just quickly on the 6-week cycle, I think we'll see again, but I think an ideal outcome in a lot of ways is that certain circles go on forever, right? It could be, an infinite circle where there is no right answer, right? There is no correct answer to quality. That just, I don't think we can aspire, but I don't think we'll get to that point. But there will be certain things that should roll off, right? I don't think you can talk about an AI tool for financial research forever. Maybe you can, maybe I'm wrong, but there should be sort of like a natural organic off-ramp for people. And maybe it's not your group, maybe it's not your topic, and not to feel that pressure that you just have to keep up with it forever. So I think we got that feedback a few times where 6 weeks feels short, or why limit it? And I think that's sort of the reason. And again, we'll iterate. We definitely don't have answers. We have more questions than anything, but start from there and kind of see how that experience works for everyone.
Yes, wonderful. And there is a seasonality, I think, in everything we do, right? Even if it's just a work day or if it's just the week and so on. So these 6 weeks, we took this from Basecamp, who really stressed this point that they are most kind of productive and feel natural and so on if they work in these 6-week cycles, because it's not too far in the future, it's not too soon, it strikes a nice balance. However, again, up for experimentation. Yeah, and the ship something, again, Blas already said it, but it creates teamwork, it creates tangible value, something to share. I think this is also in these conversations, we're creating so much value. We've seen it maybe in the WhatsApp group also. We're having great conversation and then it fades away, but holding on to it. Today, I talked with another partner, Tom, from the community about, he mentioned that creating value is reducing entropy. And this stuck somehow with me. This is such a good framing to say, yes, the value is all out there in our groups, in our communications, in calls like this. But if you can reduce it and make it very crisp and bring it to some conclusion, that's value, right? And that can build, again, new things can build on top of that. So yeah, 6-week cycles, and it's all about the work with the Lattice partners here, right? And dive deep together into a subject that you want, right? Even you want it because you see it and then it resonates, or you want it to bring to the community, and then you just host a circle. So that's the outline. I would love your questions and feedback. Blas, do you want to say something also about at what point we are currently now and how we want to launch it regarding scope, how many circles and so on? Or should we take this at the very end?
Yeah, if people have questions, of course, jump in. I'll give you a second to think about it in case nothing's top of mind. But I think something like spearheading this with 5, 6, 7 circles, something like that makes sense, and not try to do too many, and really find people that are willing to own their thing, right? I really care about this. Even if nobody else joined, I'm going to be going deep on X, right? I think that's sort of the notion we want to get across of, I'm going to do this regardless. If people want to join me on it, the more the merrier kind of thing. So I think it makes sense to do that. And again, treat this iteratively, see what this group of 5, 6, 7 people learn, what could be better, what worked well, what didn't. Is, a weekly call? Is it a WhatsApp group? Is it a Zoom? Is it a podcast at the end where everyone who's in it just kind of talks about their insights during that time? I don't know. So we'll kind of see. But I think that's it, right? Akeem, is there anything else on that front? Yeah, Ilya, please.
Yes, hi. So thank you very much for explaining it. It's all very clear and super exciting. I guess one of the questions I had was, do you see it as a more demand-led discussion, i.e. do people come up with questions and topics they'd like to learn about? Or do you think it's more kind of, I have a skill in X, Y, Z, I'd like to talk about it, even if it's really niche, either if you're going to be one person, doesn't really matter, as Blas said.
Yeah, it's an awesome question. So I think for the purpose of circles, at least to start, I think it's more of the former. I have this question, I have this interest, and I kind of want to explore that. We have this other idea in the backlog, Ilya, of we're playing with the idea of like office hours type thing of like, hey, community, like I love talking about X. I think I can generally help with it. Here's a half-hour slot a week, a month, a year, whatever. You decide what you have, but like I think I can generally be helpful with X. If anyone wants to talk about it, here's my Calendly link or something, which I think is a little bit more of kind of the former. Maybe they dovetail over time. Maybe we don't do office hours at all, but I think the intention with the circle is more of the exploration rather than sort of the expertise angle of it.
Okay. And then just one follow-up question. I think it would be helpful to have some very loose structure or best practices that we can share initially, because I can see how this type of gatherings can kind of morph into bazaar type of discussion and with various quality of outcomes. So I think having some guidelines I think would be helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
I would add maybe in the meantime that we approach this, or we also advise to approach this from a perspective of saying, how can we do this that we win anyway? I mean, imagine, I could think of one thing. I'm currently reading this Peter Attia book, Outlive, and I really want to kind of apply a few of the things. So I could just start a circle, say like, okay, I'm doing this, right? Like I'm diving deep and I want, but it's better to do it together. If nobody or one person joins, it's already a win. I'm doing it anyway. I can do it in public. I can, in this great community, I definitely get feedback in the circle. So this is an example of, this is not a task we kind of want to give you, but rather the opposite, right? It's an tool that you can use. It's at your disposal and you have help with it. Kartik.
Yeah, Kartik.
Fabulous. Akim, this is really exciting, right? And also, Akim's, I guess, synopsis of the WhatsApp chats. I think it's like human intervention. Obviously, there's no AI that's really that good to do it, but I've always been discussing, right, if we can have a tool, because WhatsApp is productive, but it gets so busy that, sometimes you're not able to like consume. So thank you for doing that. I had two questions. One, you've already shared a list of topics. So will the 5 to 7, kind of circles that Blas spoke about be one of these? And what's your intention for how big the group would be, right? In a circle.
Yeah. I'll jump in, Akim, and if I miss something, please fill in the cracks. But I think the list that Akim showed were people who kind of raised their hand and said, I'm willing to lead one of these. And there's no magic behind sort of those topics. It's more just someone who's passionate enough about that thing that they're willing to sort of be the ringleader to start. It could be all of those, it could be none of those, but that's kind of the intention. So if you raise your hand before and want to do something different or whatever, that's fine. I think the next step would be something like, hey, here's 5, 6, 7 things that we're going to start with, 5, 6, 7 circles we'll start with. People can sort of vote or opt into one of those and go from there, right? And see which kind of get enough mass to keep going. So on how many people, I think it's an open question. I'm kind of taking this idea that I think the best practice for a good dinner party is usually between like 6 to 10. And anything less than that can get stilted. Anything more than that might be too chaotic. So starting there, and again, it's just a general hypothesis. The best ones might be 2 people or 20. I don't know. I'm sure it'll depend on the topic a little bit. So starting with that, like broadly 10-ish, sort of a rough maximum. But we'll see. We'll see how many people sign up. And to Akim's point, it could just be one other person, and that's going to help you go deep on a thing that you want to do anyway.
Yes, and I'd add to that if you have the idea of a circle or to host a circle, go ahead, right? Like basically go ahead to tell us. And what we want is to facilitate. So if we maybe start with 5 circles to, let's say, broadcast them to the community, let people sign up, it's just to help launch this thing. Of course, we want as many circles as possible out there, but only if it works, right? And so we are thinking a little bit of how to do this in a way to iterate and to learn so on and so on. And so when you want to host something, just mention it, and then we can approach you and facilitate that process. And yeah.
Thanks, Hakeem. I guess the context of my question was I already see some topics there of interest, which, I'll put my hand up for. And so I was curious. And also, I mean, just to add, organically, some of this has already happened, right? In the last couple of years, I've reached out and, made friendships with several folks in the Lattice community. I see John on, the call. I met Foucault in, Omaha. So it's kind of organically happened, right? And so it's so amazing to see this also take more, I'd say, a structural form. So thumbs up.
Yeah, that's the hope, right? I think the beautiful thing is this feels proven in a way already. There's no product risk, if you will, right? We'll learn, and it's not going to be perfect to start, but people are doing it. We just need to kind of create the rails and make it a little bit easier. And I think give permission. Obviously, I hope people felt that before to just reach out to anyone, but the excuse of hey, I'd love to go deep on this topic and people opt into it would just make that easier, I think. Yeah, Matthew, please.
Just curious when you're thinking about starting.
Hakeem, what do you think?
Yes, I think this is kind of an informal start now, this call, because now we explained it a little bit more. I will, this will have a follow-up in some form in the community of a page or something where we inform, and then we can start. So it will be, maybe next week.
Hey everyone, great idea, guys. And my question was, if there's no standard tool that we're going to use for this, no public square. So I was interested in just having a look at what other people are talking about, that perhaps I could join a circle at a later point in time. But if everyone is meeting in a private WhatsApp group or Zoom calls, how is this possible?
Yeah, so I think there will be a centralized library or repository for these things, right? So we'll make sure to keep track of that and have that somewhere, whether it's on WhatsApp or a page on the Latticework or whatever. So we will maintain that, and then some link that says, WhatsApp, Discord, Zoom, whatever, and sort of who the host is. So yes, does that answer your question?
So is it for a central directory where people could join? Because what I was mostly thinking of is just peeking in the discussion and the outputs of the discussion so that I could see if it's of interest to me or not.
Yeah.
And unless the group produces something every week, which does not seem like is intended, then there's no way for me to know this.
It's a really good question. Yeah, Hakeem, what would you say?
Can I take this? Just because there we have this typical trade-off situation, right? Of course, it would be great to have it immediately structured and immediately transparent and so on. And this is the goal we have in the future. But like a startup, whatever, we start in a little iterative way and elaborate on the go and iterate very fast. So that means that probably we start with a big variety of tools, and we want to give access as much as possible. We won't hide them away unless it's some form of characteristic of the tool. And we will have a directory. So you will know what circles exist. You will know who hosts them. You can approach them. And this is the start. And then we are moving towards more transparency. Matthew, we talked about it, right? That maybe think of a Discord channel that could be where you can pop into different rooms and just see it, but only join the ones that you really want to get active. We will work on it, right? But we definitely hear you and have the same opinion that it would be nice to have this feeling of transparency, but also allow to commit only to a few, again, right, with the quality.
Yeah, this makes sense. Thanks.
What else? Okay. If as always, if questions come up, email us, WhatsApp us, whatever it might be. But Hakeem, what are next steps? What should people expect from here?
Yeah, so next steps, we'll put this now into a format that we can share with the community. We recorded this call, so we can share it, and I will do a write-up and basically give instructions for how to launch the circle. And Blas and I, we will talk about how to structure it. We talked about maybe limiting it in the beginning to give it some visibility, right? Like in the newsletter, on the WhatsApp group, so that people can join. But again, please approach us with topics, approach me with topics I will take at this directory. And once this language is established, you know, any community lives by these jargon slots and these frameworks, right? Also these mental models. So if a circle from now on, it's a mental model you can use, it's a tool you can use inside the community. And so please continue, but you will hear from us more and more in all the channels how this goes starting next week.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, we'll not steal another minute of your time. We'll let everyone run. Thank you again for taking time out of your, God, I don't even know what day it is, Thursday, I guess. Thank you for taking time out of your day. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. We're really excited about what this can become. This ability to just go super deep with this community, I think is exciting to me, at least. We'll see how it shapes out. So thank you again. Questions, comments, feedback, always appreciated. So if anything comes to mind, just always reach out.
Great idea, guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, everyone. We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.